We are live. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today on the Q&A. Usually I do this on Patreon, and you have to pay to get it, and you can send in your questions, and we answer them. But today I decided, it's the first one of the year. Let's do it on YouTube. Let's get everyone involved. Let's get people to send in questions on YouTube, and we'll talk it out. There hasn't been an event yet in 2023, so I'm sure we'll have we have a lot of questions here from Patreon, which I will pull up, and we have some different and unusual questions, maybe, and some of the mad topics that have happened over the opening few days of the year, I suppose, which will give us plenty to talk about, which will give us a lot of pause for the rest of the year, I suppose, as well. The way things have. The way things have gone. So you can send in your questions here on YouTube if you are watching here, like Patrick's in there. What's up, Sean? We have a question here from Carol, which I'll get to in a second as well. And I'll show your questions on screen and I will answer them there. Also, I'm going to pull up the questions from Patreon like this. I'm going to answer them and we will, that's the way we'll do it. So if you're watching here, watching live on YouTube, send in your question and I will answer it as we go. As I said, this comes out every Wednesday on Patreon. Usually audio only, but maybe more video now as we go into the new year. And it's usually around a half an hour. So if you are an hour, an hour, half an hour. And if you like it, sign up patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast, and you will get it every week. So let's get straight into it. Let's answer the questions. Let's answer this first one from Carol Yan. Thoughts on Francis Ngannou to PFL? Financially, I understand him and have no issue, but as a fan of Francis, it'll feel like he's returned. Have zero interest in watching him in the PFL heavyweight division. Has that happened? Is that a thing? Let me. Maybe I should have checked the websites this morning before, or this afternoon before I hopped on here. But I don't think that's official. I think there was a picture of Francis. And he was with, I don't know, was it his mother or his aunt or something, and she was wearing a PFL top. But I wouldn't be saying he signed for PFL based on that. It's a very interesting time, I suppose, for Francis Ngannou. It's a very interesting time because if you look at what he has, I suppose, achieved, and then what he has done over the last year, and what he will do over the next year, it's like it's going to be memorable. It's going to be something like, people look back on like Randy Couture from years and years ago, what he did with the UFC. It's going to be a big resign, like even like the Gilbert Melendez thing when he went to sign for Bellator, and the UFC match it and he came back. Like, it's so, whatever happens, it's going to be something like that. It's going to be game changing. It's going to it's maybe not necessarily game changing. Maybe, in fact, that's probably definitely the wrong word. That they're the game's changing, but it'll be memorable. It'll be very, very memorable. My opinion is, like, I think the best case scenario for Francis Ngannou at the time when we were talking about this was to get a contract, right, where he could have this boxing match if it was possible. Now, I never thought it was possible, and you can go back and look at the tweets and all that. Tyson Fury was playing him. Absolutely playing him, right? But the best case scenario is get the boxing match, but also get a UFC contract, because where else are you going to achieve what you want to achieve in UFC? In PFL, okay, I think PFL are doing great things. They have big plans for next year, but like, unless he gets something guaranteed from PFL, I don't know. And like, can it even happen? I know John Nash has done some great work with the whole contract situation. We'll wait and see on that. Answer a couple more from YouTube, and then I will jump over to Patreon here. John Cleary, when is Aaron Gallan going to transition fully to MMA? I don't know. No, he's knocked a few lads out with hurleys, all right, but I don't know. I saw him at the Limerick team, and if anyone knows, Aaron Gallan's Limerick hurler, the best hurler in Ireland, the most underrated hurler in Ireland by a country mile. But yeah, I saw the Limerick team were training a bit of BJJ there a couple of weeks ago, so you'd never know. David C, big fan, Sean, can't watch it at the moment, but I'm at work. Keep it going, brother. Shout out to Becky and Aries, who's the next big thing in MMA. Thank you very much, David. I appreciate it. And shout out to him. So let's move over and talk answer some of the questions over on Patreon. So the first one here from Gunnaret. How do commissions improve the standards of refs, particularly at the elite level? We had the Herb Dean disaster show, but Dan Murgliata has had so many shockers last year. It just seems to not get addressed. It would be great to see some of the UK refs get more in the UFC, especially like Mitchell and Co. Rarely see poor decisions on Cage Warriors shows. Look, it's an interesting one. We talk a lot, I suppose, on the Severe Mate podcast and the Patreon and all about, judging and reffing and all of that, and keep a very, very close eye on it. Look, I've been pretty outspoken on what I think of, especially like Herb Dean over the last while. I think, I think he's been poor. I think he once was a very good referee, but no longer is that. You've heard Dan Hardy speaking about that as well. So it's not just me. It's someone who's knows has forgotten more about the game than I ever know. Talking about it as well. Look, all I can say is the commissions look at these things. The commissions try to improve. They try to do training. They try to get people minutes and stuff. But there is that I do think that is an issue that people sometimes can't be moved on to maybe smaller shows where they're given a kind of a setback, so they have to work their way back, if you want to do it like that. Like, and you look at some referees as well. Like, I think Kevin McDonald is a great example. That's a guy who's improved an awful lot over the years. Like, I don't think Kevin McDonald is ever going to be the best referee in the world, because some people just have it. Like, say, like the likes of Goddard or likes of Big John back in the day, they have the aura, the ego, even, I suppose. But some people don't have that. Like Kevin McDonald is a guy who doesn't have that, I don't think, but he has become better at just being calm and being a referee and not panicking in those situations. And I think a lot of that was to do with maybe the criticisms that came out there, or people talking about it, or maybe the commission's work on him or him working on it himself. And that's definitely a thing I think could be done more. With refereeing, it's a little bit easier. Like, we're obviously talking about judging all the time. It's easier to see it in refereeing. It's easier to explain it if there is an error, or if you disagree with it or something. Judging is a lot different, because to explain a debatable judging call, a refereeing call, is like, did he do this? Did he stop it at this time? Very simple, right? Simple but complex. But a judging one is like, well, have you got to spare half an hour there to read the criteria? Anyway, let's answer the next question here. Stephen Nagel. Dana White resigns from the UFC following the assault. If you're an Endeavor exec, what do you look for in your next CEO? So Stephen is kind of saying if he was to retire. Excuse me, as I cough myself to death here. And also, you can get your questions up here on the screen if you're watching. Feel free to send them on YouTube. So that one from Stiegel about Stephen Nagel about Dana White. So myself and Harry actually talked a little bit about this yesterday. So your podcast coming out tomorrow about Dana White more, Speaker's Corner. And I made the point on that as well. Like, Dana White is not the CEO. All right, Dana White is the president. He's the front face. He is like Dana White is, in America, where they have, I'm just checking my phone here to see if everything's going right. But in America, they have those signs, and those big spinny signs like pizza $1, and the lad spinning on his head like that and all. That's basically what Dana White is for the UFC, right? And like Dana White, I'm sure he's involved in some of the negotiations, but they have actual proper people who can do that stuff now with Endeavor and all. And I'm sure Hunter Campbell and Arnie Emanuel and others, I'm sure, are doing that stuff and have people to do that stuff. So he is the front-facing guy. And he, at one time, was the best ever at doing that. I think the thing about Dana, I think it's a lot of what Dana has done has been overblown and underblown in terms of the promotion of the UFC. Now, we're not talking about the slap here for a second. I'm sure we'll get questions about that when we come in, but we're talking here about specifically Stephen's question about the next UFC president. I think at the moment you don't need someone who is going to strike you a TV deal. You don't need someone who's going to be an executive. I think you need someone who is going to be maybe more of a PR person. Let's say if you were to get rid of Dana White, I don't think you need another Dana White, right? I don't think you need who would be. I don't know. I don't think you'd need a Brendan Schaub to go in there and do that job, right? I know it's to just talk nonsense and, go mad if something was put against him, whatever. It's the easy answer and everyone will say it, I suppose. But someone like a Brian Stan, I think, would be perfect. A respected person who knows business, who knows fighting, who can go in there to a press conference and answer questions and keep it like that. Like, that is the way MMA has gone, whether we like it or not, right? Whether you like it or whether you're a fan of mad press conferences and people fucking and blinding, MMA is going more and more and more towards that, and as is the UFC. And I don't think that controversy like that or the possibility of controversy is something that MMA needs anymore. It really isn't. Like, MMA is doing pretty well without it. In fact, it's doing better without it than it ever was with it. So that's someone who I think I'd be looking for if I was to replace Dana White. Christopher Graham, my guy. Shawnee, I've been a bit mad with questions this week. No bother. Brace yourself. Thanks for indulging me. This is the first question in Severe MMA Patreon way back in 2019. What are your thoughts on using 4/8-man tournaments to determine interim champion / number one contenders if the champ is injured or in super fights? I think it might have been some relevance to light heavyweight and featherweight divisions in 2023. I have always been a fan of this, to be honest. I've always been someone who wanted to to have tournaments, who likes tournaments, who likes to get something that's planned out to earn where we're going to be next, right? I've always been someone who likes that. I've always been someone who wants to see the big fights, right? And have let's say whatever division. Okay, heavyweight, perfect. Let's say the next fight is going to be John Jones versus Francis Ngannou for the title. Right, we have that plan. That's going to be in 6 months, right? So between now and then, let's have a fight in 3 months' time. Let's have 4 people fight. This is the tournament. Just 4 people, right? 4 people fighting the tournament. The next 4. Let's pull up the heavyweight rankings here. Let's do it meritocracy, or whatever that word is, right? Heavyweight rankings. Let's do Francis Ngannou. Cyril Gane, Stipe Miocic, Pavlovich, and Blades, right? Let's have Gane versus Blades, Miocic versus Pavlovich. The 4 of them fight. Let's say Gane wins and Stipe wins. The 2 of them fight, and the winner of that fights for the title. And the 2 of them fight on the same night that John Jones fights Francis Ngannou. Right? Let's do that. How fun would that be? That'd be absolutely great. So yeah, let's do that. I'm all down. I'm all down for that. Right, next one here. It's time for the World Cup inspired. Oh yes, we've been doing this for the last while. Time for the World Cup inspired 60-man open weight Grand Prix. Latest weight class used. Give us your predictions for the semifinals and finals. Okay, so Australia is Tuivasa versus Glover Teixeira. This is pound for pound now as well. So who'd win, Glover or Tuivasa, pound for pound? I would say Glover. Who wins between Cyril Gane and Abu Aitzar? I would say Gane. So it's Glover versus Gane in the final. Who wins that? I'm going to go with Cyril Gane. I'm going to go with Cyril Gane on that one. All right, next question from my guy Christopher. Any thoughts on Dana White domestic abuse? What repercussions, if any, should there be for him and the UFC? So here we go. Let's get into it. Look, my thoughts on this. I said it now a couple of times, but I'm not sure about the repercussions. I know anywhere else, if this happened, what the repercussions would be, right? Some people like to say that the UFC is like the NFL. Some people like to say it's like the Dallas Cowboys or Man United or Liverpool or whatever it might be, right? Okay, let's take both of those. If Gianni Infantino, the lead of FIFA, was caught slapping his wife like this, do you think he'd be able to stay on as the lead of FIFA? If Roger Goodell did it, would he be able to stay on as the lead of FIFA? I would say absolutely and utterly not. There's probably a 99% chance they would go, right? If Jurgen Klopp was caught doing this, if Pep Guardiola was caught doing this, Eric Ten Hag, whoever it might be, whoever the coach is of the New York Yankees, Bill Belichick, if they were caught doing that, would they stay on? Would they be able to keep their jobs? I would say absolutely not, right? And yet we haven't seen that many people actually call for Dana White's job. We've just seen a lot of people call for like, oh, can we have an answer? You know, can we can we have an answer from the UFC? Can we have an answer from Endeavor? Can we have an answer from ESPN? Can we have an answer from Disney? All the owner / partners of the UFC and all of that. Can we get a word from them? No, can we get a word from any of them about this? And the fact that we can't just says so much about this. Just says so much about it. Like the incident itself. And I go back to the question here from Christopher. Thoughts on the Dana White domestic abuse. And we just talked about the repercussions. My thoughts, and I watched it again last night because I was listening to a podcast about it. And my thoughts on it are that, like, it's actually worse. Given a week now, maybe I haven't watched it in 3 or 4 days or whatever. It actually looks way worse watching it again than it did even initially. It was kind of that shock initially. It was like, oh, what are we going to say about this? How is this going to be, talked about and all? But when you look at it again, like, I think some people are kind of missing out on the fact that Dana White is kind of pulling her into the situation before she slaps him. Like, a lot of people are kind of saying, oh, she initiates it with the slap. He really initiates it by pulling her back in. He gets slapped, and then he absolutely slaps her as hard as he can, like 2 times in a row, and then goes straight for her again. Like, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. And you know what? I spoke about it in the podcast coming out again tomorrow. I actually think there's a few people. There'll always be people saying, oh, what are you talking about? You're come on, they've sorted it out. He came out, he released statements. There's very few. From what I've seen, the vast majority of people are either, and this almost tells the truth, right? People are saying it, people are criticizing them and all, but there's a lot of people staying quiet, and that tells a story. And I'm not talking about, say, websites or journalists or whatever. I'm talking about normal fans. I'm talking about people who would normally be all over this. A lot of those people are staying quiet, and that tells a story. And I don't think this is going away for Dana White. Every morning I get up, every time I go in my phone, I'm seeing new stories about this, new different outlets covering it. And I don't think this is going away for a while for Dana White anyway. But I'm sure there'll be more questions about that here as we go. What are your thoughts on Dillon Danis, particularly in light of the most recent pullout? Honestly, like, I don't really care about this, but we'll go quickly on this one. My thoughts on Dillon Danis are that he was obviously a very good jiu-jitsu player. I was looking forward to seeing him in MMA. I know a lot of people, I know Graham has spoken about it. Obviously, with Graham was over doing documentary with McGregor and was around Dillon Danis. He always said, like, he was a lovely fella and all. And he seemed to be, I think most people would say that about him, but, like, do you know what? Forget about all the online antics and all that. I just think Dillon Danis is so badly injured and has been for the last 3 years that it's maybe a story where we're not actually, like, maybe not telling, maybe because he won't tell that truth even himself, because he keeps saying about, oh, I'm coming back, but Din says, oh, I've been injured for a long time. So my thoughts on Dillon Danis are, it's an awful pity he got so badly injured that he's basically been out for 3 years. I don't give a shit about him being on Instagram and stuff. So yeah. And that's another one here from YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, I know there's a good few people watching at the moment. Stick your question in the comments below, and I will read it and answer it here. From Carly-Ann. People always used to say back in the day, Chael Sonnen should take over from Dana. I could not think of a worse candidate. Well, maybe Shab. Yeah, Shab would be right up there as a bad candidate. Chael is just too much of a liar. Sorry, I'm just tweeting out the link here. Yeah. See, Chael would be interesting if you wanted to go the Dana White route, I suppose. And as I said earlier, I don't think they will go that route again. I really don't think they will go that route again. So, I don't think it will be Chael. Okay, next question. Thoughts on Jake Paul signing with the PFL? Could you see him doing a 2-fight series with Nate, or even fighting PFL investor Wiz Khalifa and another celebrity fight? Does Wiz do a bit of fighting? Does he? I don't know. Look, here's my thoughts on the Jake Paul thing. I'd love to see him fight MMA. I hope he does. I predicted it a while back that he'll fight. He's fighting old MMA fighters in boxing. He'll probably fight old boxers in MMA coming up here. The Nate Diaz thing. I don't know. I haven't heard anyone saying this, right? I haven't heard anyone saying this about the Nate Diaz Jake Paul call out, or the Jake Paul Nate Diaz call out. But he said, I'll box you first and then do MMA. No. No. That's not how it works. That's not how it works, fella. You need to do MMA first and then box. Because if you do boxing first, you could go off into the sunset and never see him again. You can't force someone to fight. So there's no, if I was Nate Diaz, there's no way in hell I would do that. My thoughts. So the question is, what's your thoughts on Jake Paul signing up to PFL? I don't think he'll ever fight in MMA. Right? I really don't. I don't believe a word of it. I do not believe a word of it. So we'll wait and see. And do you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. What's the logic of booking two up and coming British fighters, Nathaniel Wood and Leon Murphy, against each other on the London card? Do you know what? Here's my word on that I always say, right? If you give me a good fight, I won't complain about it. And that is a good fight. Does it make sense, ranking wise, where those guys are? I think it probably does. Yeah. So just because they're both from the same country, there's going to be a lot of British fighters. We've seen this before with Irish fighters as well. People giving out about them being matched up, whether it was Reds or Norman Park back in the day, or Leah and Sinead. I've no problem with it. So I'm happy with this fight. It's a good fight. Let's do it. Right, next question. Let me get a drink just before we go do that there. I'm not usually a big one for drinking. I usually have my audio. You usually pause it when you're doing live stream. Thoughts on Vince McMahon returning to the board of WWE in preparation for sale of the company valued at $5 billion. Interesting. There was rumors came out last night. Obviously, Ariel has reported the opposite this morning, that Saudi Arabia were in to buy him. And I think that is probably why Vince McMahon is there, because I think a lot of people, myself included, when we heard the news, we were like, oh, Vince McMahon's just trying to get his way back in. And it probably is his way back in, if we're being honest. If we're being honest, it probably is his way back in, because if those lads buy it, he'd probably get back in. So my thoughts on it are that Vince McMahon, a lot like Dana White, is Teflon. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Next one here from Shawnee Betts over on YouTube. Hope y'all well, Shawnee. Where do you think Brendan Loughnane would rank in the UFC featherweight division? Let's pull up the rankings here and have a quick look. So the featherweight rankings are as follows. Volkanovski, obviously the champion. We have Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega, Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett, Chan Sung Jung, Calvin Kattar, Giga Chikadze, Ilia Topuria, and Mutsar Avalev. It'd be hard to get into that top 10. Are there guys in that top 10 I'd pick him to beat? Absolutely. I think him versus Giga Chikadze would be a very good fight. I think him versus Kattar would be a very, very good fight. Could I see him beating Max Holloway or Volkanovski at this very minute? Probably not. Could I see him beating Yair Rodriguez? Yeah, I think he could. Could he beat Brian Ortega? I think he could. It's a tough fight. Arnold Allen, again, a tough fight. Could he beat him? He could. Could he beat Josh Emmett? I think he would beat Josh Emmett. But Josh Emmett's fighting for the title next. I think he would beat Josh Emmett. So I'd probably, it'd be hard to rank him because he hasn't beaten any of these guys. But where would I put him amongst a lot of these? Like, I would put him above 3 or 4 lads in the top 5. But then Topuria, Ivalev, it's got to be tough there. I think he's good enough to get into. I think he's good enough to get into the top 10 there. I really do. Right. Next question here over on Patreon. Thoughts on Habib's, Habib. I saw a thing about him wanting to pronounce his own name the other day. So Habib's abrupt decision, step away from MMA completely. Will he be there to support Islam to get the pound for pound spot, or was supporting Islam getting the title enough? I don't know the answer to this one, to be honest. You never know what it'll be, because usually when you see this, my first reaction is to go, hashtag MMA retirements, this will never happen, and all of that. But with Habib, he's kind of shown now that that's not necessarily the case. Also, could this be a thing, right? I'm stepping away from coaching to get back fighting. You'd never know. Spend the year with the family, do a bit of, get a bit of the weight off. I'm like, where are the family living? Are they living in Dagestan? Like, is it going to be near where everyone's training? Are you going to be continuing to train? I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. Like with Habib, I'm never that I don't know what the word is. Not into it is the phrase I'm looking for, but I don't like when Habib was fighting when he was coming up. I absolutely loved it, and I was actually like I was baffled by the fact that Habib retired when he did in terms of the sporting aspect of it. Okay, you can talk about his father passing away and he's not wanting to fight. Absolutely, I can understand that without a shadow of a doubt. But it just felt, as an MMA fan, heartbreaking. Like when McGregor went away for years doing the boxing, and I was like, this is one of the best MMA fighters in the world, and we're losing out on this. And I asked him, McGregor, that when I interviewed him, and he, I don't know, he kind of half agreed, I suppose, but it's it's heartbreaking to see that sometimes in MMA fan. Right, let's jump through some of these. Should UFC Africa be a pay-per-view if it happens in Nigeria? Usman and Izzy trying to reclaim the titles on home turf. Maybe Ngannou was fighting as well. Will this actually happen? Like, we've been talking about this for a decade, lads. There used to be a lad with his own Twitter account saying, "Oh, UFC is going to Africa." I will believe it when I see it. So we'll see. Would you rather see Caleb face Nunes or Cyborg? That's a very interesting one. I'd rather see her face Larissa Pacheco first, I suppose. Do you know the weird thing, though? I was thinking about this the other day, especially with AJ McKee re-signing with Bellator, right? Has MMA ever been fractured as much at the very top in terms of people in different divisions? Now, the featherweight division, I suppose, is the one, especially with both men and women. You look at it and you think, would Patricky Pitbull, we just looked at the featherweight top 10 there. Would Patricky Pitbull and AJ McKee both be in the top 5 in that division in the UFC? I think most people would say they probably would, right? So 2 of the best featherweights in the world are not in the UFC. They could be fighting against Max Holloway, Volkanovski, Aaron Allen, and the rest. You look at the women's, say, featherweight division, which Kelly Harrison can obviously make. She fights at 155, but Cyborg also into that division. Amanda Nunes can obviously also go up to it. She's the champion there at the moment, but you know what I mean? So the 3 best fighters in women's featherweight in the world are in 3 different organizations. That's to me is very, very sad. Like that is, and I can't lie. When I saw the news coming through on my phone yesterday, AJ McKee has re-signed with Bellator, I was a little bit sad. I'm not going to lie. I want to see AJ McKee fight Volkanovski. I want to see AJ McKee fight Max Holloway. And okay, I want to see AJ McKee fight Patricio again. I want to see him fight Benoit at 155. And I want to see him fight Usman or Magomedov at 155 as well. But, I have probably in the last year advocated more than anyone else for the chasing back, over in Sherdog with the podcast there, but over in Patreon as well with Ian on the chasing back. But still, the UFC is that leader. When you see the best fighters in the world aren't going there, like Loughnane and Shawnee Betts talked about earlier on, it is a bit sad. If Fedor wins Bellator heavyweight title in his final match, does that solidify him as the greatest MMA heavyweight of all time? Oh God, I don't know. If you beat Ryan Bader, are you the greatest heavyweight of all time? Like, probably not. So, maybe no. On beating Bader alone, is he anywhere? Maybe. You could argue that. So, possibly. Should KSW be considered number 2 promotion behind the UFC? There is, without a shadow of a doubt, definitely an argument for that. It was funny. There's a KSW card coming up next week. I was doing my my watch for it yesterday. My fight watching for it last night. Geez, there's some great fighters over in KSW. There's a lad fighting in KSW. Let me just pull up his name here. In next week's card coming up, and this guy is an absolute monster. He's 5-0. Let me just get his name here. I have it saved in my thing. Let me just quickly get it. Radislav Pakowski is his name. Probably badly pronounced. He's fighting Tommy Romanowski. This guy is an absolute beast. An absolute beast at 5-0. So I'm looking forward to seeing him fighting. But KSW, the crowds they sell, the fighters they have, absolutely, you could say KSW are the number 2. Next question here over on YouTube from All About Bounces. Harry, hello Harry. So if you're listening, there's a good few people listening on YouTube at the moment. Leave your question in the comment section below. I'll pull them up on screen and answer them here. What happens to the Bellator fighter should Bellator be sold? Will there be a large amount jumping ship? Depends who they're sold to. Depends who they're sold to. So I Look, everyone would probably think, oh, if the Bellator were to be sold to someone, who would it be sold to? There's a few options, right? Like WWE, they could be sold to, well, the rumors about WWE, they could be sold to Saudi Arabia, you know? They could be sold to ESPN. They could be sold to, Disney, whoever it might be. Or they could be sold to the UFC. Or they could be sold to PFL. Or they could be sold to One Championship. And the answer to that is this question here, as we see on screen, is very different for all of those. So if they're sold to another MMA promotion, I would think they will. I don't think Bellator would keep going if that happened. I think they'd get rid of Bellator. I think they would bring in the fighters. It'd be a lot easier, obviously, for everyone apart from the UFC to do that, because there's probably loads of gaps there to fill, and probably a load of fighters they could get rid of to fill them with. And for the UFC, they have loads of fighters there already. And I'd be interested to see if they would pay the wages that Bellator paid them. Probably not, but I think a lot of people would be let go, and the best fighters would be kept on. And if one of the TV stations bought it, I think it'd be kept going the way it is. Maybe a little bit drawn back, maybe a few less events and things like that. But yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very interesting to see how that goes. Next one here over on YouTube as well. Sean, will the True Balls podcast ever return? Loved it. Most biased football show ever. I was talking to the lads about it today. Cinema tweeter at Muzzyboy, MUZZYBOY. Tweet him. Go, bring it back. We've loads of questions coming in here on YouTube. Let me answer a few more over on Patreon, and then I will jump back to the ones here on YouTube in a second. But thank you to everyone for sending in questions on YouTube. Who would you like to see Christian Leroy Duncan face in his debut in London? I think Christian Leroy Duncan can beat ranked middleweights at the moment. I really, really do think he can beat ranked middleweights in the UFC at the moment. But you know what we'll do here? Let's go to Zane Simon's list of UFC middleweights and look and see if there's anyone. Let's go towards the bottom of the list because he's obviously going to be coming in new. How about Bo Nickel? I'd watch that. I think someone like, say, Joe Pyfer, right? I think someone like that would be a good matchup for him. I think he's probably going to get someone, say, like, I don't know, an AJ Dobson, a Josh Frame, the Trayshawn Gore, maybe something like that. I'd love to see him fight Chidi Njokuani. Give me that. There's my answer. Chidi Njokuani. Let's see that. Next question. What can you tell us about the recent signing Sharaputin Magomedov? I can tell you very little, but I got a text. Was it him? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe, I know nothing about him. There's a quick and simple answer. I got a text from someone about a recent UFC signing, though, and they were like, this guy is going to absolutely destroy everyone. And I think it might be him, but I'm not sure. That feels like it's a joke name. that feels like someone's trying to take the piss out of me there. It feels like it's IP Freely or something. Anyway, as so many fighters coming from Central Asia recently, and because of the UFC event in Russia is unlikely in the near future, could we see the UFC hosting an event in Kazakhstan or a neighboring country before the end of 2024? Probably not, I would say. Like, are the economics of making money going to be as high there as they would be holding one in the UFC Apex? Probably not. So I think it probably won't happen. And also, like, they don't seem to want to be traveling as much. Like, why aren't they coming to Ireland? Like, why are the UFC not coming to Ireland? I think that's bizarre as well. So, never know. Thank you very much, Patrick. Send us in 99 cents. If you're watching there, you could send us in money as well. Send us in a $5 there, lads, or whatever. And we'll keep it going. Question here from Ian O'Neill. How many points will Kilkenny beat Limerick by in this year's All-Ireland final? What does that say there, Ian? Look at that. 3 in a row? Who do we beat again? Who do we beat to win the 3 in a row? That was Kilkenny, I think. I'm pretty sure that was Kilkenny. So yeah, probably not. All Day Clark, thoughts on when Ireland will get another UFC card? Funny, we were just talking about it. Do you know what? I think next year. I don't think it'll be 2023. I hope I'm wrong. Although, I don't know, I have so many hotel rooms to book this year. Here's what I'll say. There will be at least three, write it down. At least 3 of the big organizations will show in Ireland this year. At least 3. So there you go. Hello, everyone, from Thomas. Hello, Thomas. How are you? Let's jump over again. Christopher Graham, heavyweight Qs. Does Francis re-sign with the UFC? Has he not? Has he signed away from the UFC? When did this happen? Yeah, I think he stays with the UFC. Does Jones fight at UFC 285 in March? Yes. So I'm going to do this as a year and a this one. If so, who will challenge? Who will be next to challenge the winner? Okay, so the two of them fight. Cyril Gagnon. Which fights would you like to see booked for the following? Pavlovich, Blades, Aspinall. Let's do. Hold on. Let's look at the rankings. So, that's the wrong one. Where am I? Here we go. So the heavyweights. Let's go with Tuivasa versus Aspinall, and let's go with Blades versus Pavlovich. There we go. Does Stipe fight again? That's an interesting question. Myself and Spencer talked about this on the state of the UFC. I think if Stipe is given, say, a big John Jones fight or a title fight, I think he'll fight again. Otherwise, I don't think he will. And I think if he's given that, if he loses, he'll never fight again. If he wins, he'll keep fighting until he loses, and then he'll be gone. Like, Stipe is a smart guy. He's earned good money down through the years. I don't think he's wasted it, and he's been very smart in terms of the fights he's taken over the last while. So that's the way I think. That's the way I think it'll go with Stipe. Light heavyweight. Discuss how an 8-man light heavyweight Grand Prix to determine the new champ might play out. Okay, here we go. So Glover versus Craig. I will go with Glover. Blachowicz versus Hill. I will go with Hill. Sorry, Sean Denny. Rakic versus Smith. I will go with my guy Rakic. And Ankalaev versus Krylov. Go with Ankalaev. So then we'll go the top two. So it'll be Glover versus Hill. I'm going to go with Hill in that one because I think that fight's coming up and I think he'd win. Rakic versus Ankalaev. I think that'd be close. I'll go with Rakic. I think Ankalaev's a bit overrated. And then Hill versus Rakic. I'll go with Hill in that one. Can you imagine the chaos if Glover wins at 283 and immediately retires? I could see it happening. I could really see it happening. Middleweight. Who does Whitaker fight next? I'm going to go with Potan. Does Costa resign? Yeah. If Hamzat moved to middleweight now, who would you book him against first? I would book him against Israel Adesanya. Thoughts on these up-and-comers? Muniz, Duplessis, Imavov, Dolidze. I need to watch more of Dolidze, to be honest. I like him, but I need to watch more of him. Muniz, I like him, but he wasn't great in the last fight. I think there's room for a grappler at middleweight, unlike most of the other weight classes. Duplessis is stone useless and will never be a champion or probably... middleweight's so bad he could be top 5. He probably already is top 5, is he? And Imavov, very impressed with Imavov. Was watching him yesterday. Good fighter, like his style. Welterweight, who would you most like to see Bilal face in London? Khamzat, Covington, Gilbert, or even title fight against Edwards? So I think I'd like to see him in a title fight if he could get it. If not, I would like to see him fight Colby Covington. I think that fight makes a lot of sense. Him versus Gilbert is also a good fight. If Usman isn't healthy, would you begrudge UFC booking Leon versus George? I absolutely would, yeah. Give me fight for Leon at home and in the room where it all started. One last big pay-per-view sale off of George's name. I would, yeah. That's a fight that I have no interest in seeing, to be honest. So, yeah, I would begrudge that. Question from Twitter. YouTube. If you had to build a card, Ireland versus the world, you can add fighters from any promotion. Okay. We go with 5 fights here. So Conor McGregor headlining against Tony Ferguson. Ian Gary, Brian Barberin. Did you see that calling each other out yesterday? I'll go with that. Do you know what? I'll have Paul Hughes versus Vucinic 3 in the UFC in a big fight. I'll go with that. I will go with Sinead Kavanagh versus Liam McCourt 2 because I love that fight. It was the weirdest fight I was ever at. But I love that fight so much, and I'd book it again. I have great time for both of them. I think they're brilliant. And one more, I will go with Lee Hammond against... Who will I put Lee Hammond against? I don't know. Let's go with Lee Hammond against Ryan Shelley. How about that? 2 Irish lads in there. God, that's a great fight. Lee Hammond's 145, isn't he? He is, isn't he? Oh, Lord. Give me that. Don't think the UFC even prior to going abroad anymore from Carl. Yeah, I would agree, Carl. I would agree. I don't think they do. Right, more from Patreon. Who would you book Conor against his return? That's funny. We just said that. A welterweight, lightweight, or middleweight. I would go with Tony Ferguson. Christopher, for our lightweight, does Beneil fight once more before getting the title shot? If so, against who? I don't know. I don't think he does. No, I don't think he does. I think he'll wait, and I think he will get the title shot. Who would you book Charles against for his return? Beneil. No, I wouldn't mind seeing Charles in a fun fight. Let's have a look at the rankings here. Lightweight. So we Charles Oliveira at number 1. He's fought. It feels like he's fought everyone. How like Charles versus Gamrot? How about something like that? I'd like to see that. Charles versus Dos Anjos. Has he fought Dos Anjos? Give him like one of these lads. Say Turner, Saryukin, Gamrot, Fiziev. They deserve one of the top, 3 or 4 here. But I think Beneil Dariush was absolutely right the other day, and I thought Ariel kind of taking the piss out of him, and I was like, what's that about? Like he was saying, Dustin Poirier should retire if he doesn't want to fight up and comers. Now, the retire bit, okay, but I'm a big fan of Dustin Poirier, and I think he should try to get as big a fights as he can. But when he's done that over and over and over for the last few fights, I think there is a time where you either step up or step aside, and that's not just Poirier. I think it's Poirier to some extent, Chandler, not really, but Gaethje without a shadow of a doubt. Poirier and Gaethje need to fight some of these lads. They really do, and I hope they do soon. I hope they do. Which legit up-and-coming contenders would you book against Poirier, Gaethje, and Chandler, respective to open up the division? That's funny. We just said that. Line them up. Let's go with Poirier versus Fiziev. What a fucking fight that'd be. Let's go with Gaethje against Saryukin, and let's go with Turner against Chandler. Let's do that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Let's go for it. If the goal is to maximize return for Paddy before he gets exposed, who would you book him against next? Fucking me. But get Andrew McGann in there to find her or something like that. If the goal is to maximize the amount of money for Paddy, just keep putting in there against, taxi drivers and bus drivers. Honestly, just keep doing that. If the UFC are smart, they will keep doing that, right? And I have, I've been saying that since before he got exposed 3 weeks ago. It's weird to think that. Like Paddy Pimblett, we've seen him for years. So yeah, I don't know what people are on about. Gaethje versus Fiziev has been rumored. Oh lordy, Gaethje won't take that fight. Sean Betts, McKee versus Wildhead and Ireland versus Ireland Guard. Yeah, God Almighty. I watching Reece McKee. Funny enough, woke up this morning and the AJ McKee thing was in my head, and I said, let's watch a few Reece McKee fights or something like that. And Reece McKee is a great fucking fighter. Reece McKee's a guy, because maybe he's quiet. We don't talk about him enough. But Reece McKee is one of the most entertaining fighters. I actually watched a clip of him versus Chimaev showed up the other day. And Reece McKee briefly did better against Chimaev than anyone else in the fucking UFC apart from Gilbert Burns has so far. He really did. But oh my God, that fight against Burlinson was unbelievable. Reece McKee against Wildhead is going to be unbelievable. Shout out Reece McKee. We don't fucking shout him out enough, and he deserves it. So fair play to Reece McKee. Thoughts on Demir's retirement? Hopefully it's not real. Hopefully he's back. Featherweight. How about Cejudo versus Allen at featherweight? Oh, that'd be interesting. Gives a high-profile fight to Allen without jeopardizing his position by fighting Topuria or Max. It would give Cejudo a legit test at featherweight and set up a decent, legitimate challenger for Volk if he wins. Thoughts? I love the fight. Love the fight. I do not think Cejudo would take that. What's next for Max lightweight? I'd love to see Max at lightweight. I don't understand why he's not there already. Let's get Max to lightweight. Let's have him fight. One of those guys that I just mentioned there. Line him up. Where are we gone? Max Holloway versus Beneil Dariush. I think he deserves a title shot, but Max Holloway versus Beneil Dariush is fun. Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. Sign me up. Oh, Lord Jesus. Right. That's what I want, 2023. Max Holloway, move up to lightweight, fight Justin Gaethje. That's a fight of the year contender right there. Give me that. Someone clip this, tag him, Max Holloway, at Blessed MMA, at Justin Gaethje, whatever it is. Come on, lads. Do ye. Let's make it happen. Let's make that fight happen. I want to see that. Let's make it happen. Right. Next question. Is Topuria versus Ortega the fight to make? Oh, Lord God. Yes, it is. I'd watch that fight. I haven't thought it through. I'll probably give like 5 other fights when someone asks me about Topuria, but I love that fight. Who fights for the title next? Suga or Cejudo? Who wins? Since this question has been sent in, I think it's come out that Aljo is injured, unsurprisingly. But I think Cejudo would have been the next guy. Now I think it's up in the air. What's next for Merab? Yan, Vera, Sandhagen winner. I think, and Spencer said this on the Q&A or the State of the UFC, and I'm kind of robbing his idea, but I like it. Nurmagomedov's fighting this weekend. And actually yesterday I have made a list of Nurmagomedov so I don't mix them up. Yet I can't. Umar Nurmagomedov's fighting this weekend. If he wins against Hayoni Barcelos, I think he could be the one to jump up and fight Merab. So yeah, that's the one I will go for there. How would Aljo do against the top 5 of the featherweight division? Let's look at the featherweight division. Aljo against Volkanovski. I think Volkanovski wins that. Aljo against Max. I think Max wins that. Aljo against Yair. I think Aljo wins that. Aljo against Ortega. Oh, that's a fun fight. It's a 50-50 one. Aljo against Arnold Allen. I think Allen wins that. I think Allen will be too strong for him. So he does relatively well, I suppose, is the answer to that one. Where are we now? Rank these fighters in likelihood of them becoming flyweight champion in the future. Pantoja, Nicolau, Albazi, Cape, Makayev. I think Makayev would be number 1 and probably is my number 1, but he needs to buck up a bit. He needs to stop messing. That's what I think. So I would go with Makayev. I like Cape. I feel like Cape's going to put a run together and he'll be there. So the two of them. Do you know what? I'll put Pantoja next. And I'll put Albazi next. So the way it is listed here backwards, except I'll put Pantoja in front of Nicolau. Why is women's bantamweight so stale? Maybe a lot of it has to do with the fact that Amanda Nunes has beaten everyone and then she went away. Who fights for the title next? I think Vieira wins this weekend. She will. She's fighting Pennington. Should the UFC book the Nunes Pena trilogy just to kill time? Maybe. Actually, sure. Is now the time for Shevchenko trilogy? Like, I'm going to say yes, even though I've given 3 answers in a row here that are all maybe different. So, okay. Vieira or Nunes. Sorry, Pena to fight Nunes. Vieira or Pena to fight Nunes. None of them are like blow away. And here is the thing, right? Here is the thing. The reason I said there, why is it so stale? Because Nunes has either beaten everyone and she was gone for a while. Let me turn on my heater here. It's getting cold. And this is a rough thing to say, but I think Amanda Nunes is near the dying embers of her prime in her UFC career. And I think and I think 135 is stale, not great anyway. 125 is actually really good now. I think if you move Shevchenko up, have her beat Nunes, maybe you get another fight out of that. Maybe she wins again and she takes over that division. And then you have some very good up-and-comers like, Firo, Casey O'Neill, oh my God, the lady who beat Molly McCann, whose name won't come to me at the moment. You have a lot of very, very good fighters in that 125 division who I think could take over and do well, while Shevchenko went up to 135. I think that's the way to do it. Where is Jermaine Durandamy? I think she's coming back soon, isn't she? Who retires first, Nunes or Holm? I would say I'll say Nunes on that one. I don't think Nunes is long left to go, to be honest. And I never shut up those questions, but anyway. Here we go from YouTube. If you could advise a fighter to train at any one gym in the world, what gym would you pick? I would either go with King's MMA or I would go with Trevor Whitman's gym, whatever that's called. All about balance. If you find yourself on death row, what is your last 3-course meal? I'd go with potato and leek soup. I would go with a feed of bacon and cabbage, but the bacon has to be like honey roasted bacon. And for dessert, I would just go with like 25 profiteroles. There you go. If you could have a dinner with 3 celebrities, who would they be and where would you take them? I'd probably just have it at home, to be honest. And who would the 3 celebrities be? I don't know. Probably 3 people I'd like to have a chat with. Like I was thinking last night, right? I was watching a Roy Keane interview, and I just rather have a chat with someone and like ask them about like if I was talking to Roy Keane, ask him about Saipan or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I would rather like 3 of my friends than just 3 celebrities, but I know I'd probably go with like someone I'd find interesting or whatever. I'd probably actually go with like, say I was listening to Spencer talking to Scroobius Pip there. I'd probably go with someone like Scroobius Pip. You know, you'd have a good chat with him. You could talk about MMA. It'd be friendly. And I'd probably like go with a couple of MMA fighters. Like I'd probably go with someone like say Richard Kiley, would have a bit of the crack. You know, like that. When I'm twisting the word celebrity here when I'm putting in Richard Kiley, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I'd probably go with someone wild in the end, like fucking Pete Doherty or someone. Throw him in there. There we go. So yeah, Scroobius Pip, Pete Doherty, and Richard Kiley. That's my 3. I don't think anyone could have predicted that. We remember that Julian Rosa, Paddy Pimble decision. Oh, we do indeed remember it. Right, let's finish off these here, lads. Ask a few questions. Is women's flyweight gearing up to be the most intriguing women's division in the UFC? I think it is. It's actually really good. Did I miss one there? No, I didn't. What are the pros and cons of booking each of the following versus Shevchenko next? Santos. I think it was a close fight, but she's fighting someone next, isn't she? Is she fighting Fierro? Erin Blanchfield. That's the person I couldn't remember their name. Fierro, I think makes sense. I think that's the most logical fight. Grasso, I like that fight. I think it'd be a fun fight. Blanchfield, I think she's a great chance of beating Shevchenko, to be honest, but too early. And Zhang, super fight. Love it. There's talk of Rose moving to flyweight. Would you book her against? What about the Andrade trilogy? Probably not. I'd book her against Grasso. I think that'd be a good fight. Tatiana Suarez says she's returning in February and moving to flyweight. How about her versus Casey in Australia? Who wins? I like that fight. If Suarez is back at her best, I think she beats everyone. So I'll go with that one. Who fights for the women's strawweight fight next? Limas? I think it could be Rose. And as I said there, Rose 2-0 against the champ. Just to stay there or move up. Sorry. Yeah. That's the question. I think they'll give her the Zhang fight. I feel like that might happen. As Rose is 0-2 against Carla. Do you have any interest in seeing that again? No. Worst fight of all time. Oh, no. Here we go. Actually, the cryptic name game, I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to do it here. No, go on. We'll do it. It's time for the cryptic name game. Give me clues in the comment section here if you're listening. So it's a cryptic clue, and I have to guess who the fighter is. So it's MH. Abbreviation. As great, high, or intense as possible permitted. Max Holloway. A hole or empty space inside hollow to find how heavy something is weight. Yeah, Max Holloway. Okay, I got that one. CK. In order to bank or pay a stated sum from an account, check. Written on a specific print form, yeah, check. An alleged Democratic Republic in Central Africa. Okay. Congo? Check Congo? There we go. Check Congo. CW. Is this going to be Chris Weidman? I don't know. A slang term for cocaine. Charlie? A separate room in a hospital. Ward. Charlie Ward. Got them very quick. Okay. 16 nationalities have had fighters that have been adorned with the UFC gold. There are 27 nationalities which have yet to win a UFC title that are being represented by 33 yanked UFC fighters. List is below. It's not a lot to read, just so in reference to you. Which of these fighters has the greatest potential to carry their national to UFC gold, and who, if any, does it next? Okay, how many do we have? Okay, let's give a ranking out of 10 about how likely they are to take UFC gold. Rakic, I'd say a good 7 out of 10. Saryukin, lightweight's going to be a bit tougher, probably 4 out of 10. Fiziev, I would go 6 out of 10. I think Fiziev is better than Saryukin. Cape, I said Cape earlier. Like I feel like Cape is going to win the title at some stage. I'm going to give Cape 8 out of 10. Ivanov, maybe 1 out of 10. Dariush is right up there. 7 out of 10. Amir Albazi, I'd go with 7 out of 10. Vittori, probably 1 out of 10. Gagne, 10 out of 10. He's going to be a heavyweight champion. Fierro, I think if Shevchenko goes, she will be right up there. I'd give her a good 7 out of 10. Imavov, a middleweight. Middleweight's not great, but still 4 out of 10. Jashvili, probably 5 out of 10. Dolidze, 3 out of 10. Chikadze was great, but then he's not great in his last one. 5 out of 10. Taporia, 10 out of 10. He's going to be champion. No, maybe not 10 out of 10 when Volkanovski's there. 8 out of 10. Kazakhstan. Oh, Rakhmanov. 8 out of 10. Ishmagulov, 8 out of 10. No, 4 out of 10. Moldova, Spivak, Romanov, probably about 1 out of 10-ish. Dan Hooker, Kai Kara, France. Kai Kara, France could. You'd never know. I'll give him a 5 out of 10. Hooker, 0. Hermanson, 0. Balal, maybe. Palestine and USA. I'll go with 5 out of 10 for Balal. Paul Craig, light heavyweight, Scotland. I'll go with 2 out of 10 for that one. Who's the most likely to be next? I'll go with Cyril Gagné on that one. I think Cyril Gagné is the one. Although, what's country Cyril Gagné from? France? Well, Francis was already champion, wasn't he? Although Francis, I suppose, is not, dual national. I actually never gave Christopher his thing here. Actually, I don't think I can do it on YouTube, so I'll probably return on the Mac next one with his questions, and we will. How many more have we? Okay, we will end it on that. Great. If any more questions here on YouTube as well, we're going to be finished up here in the next couple of minutes. Are ESPN genuinely going ahead with the absolute bullshit Power Slap League? I just think this sums up how Dana's actions are being swept under the carpet and basically ignored, says Return of the Mac. I would agree. Like, there's been no repercussions for this whatsoever. It's also like, this is a bullshit, idiotic league of slapping people in the face. And it should not be happening in the first place, because it's basically legalized CTE. That's exactly what this is. It's basically organized, legalized CTE. And as Ariel said, shame on all these people. Shame on the commission for putting this together. Shame on them, really, for allowing this idiot Dana White to have his analytics fucking fight league. Ridiculous. And that's bad enough. But then you go and slap your wife and you're still doing it. It'll be good for the analytics, Dana White, slap. I'm sure that'll be good for the analytics, Next question. You mentioned before about the PFL possibly doing a show in Ireland. If they did, do you think it sells many tickets, even with some big Irish names on the roster? That's an interesting question. PFL will do a show in Ireland. Here's what I'll say. I think it'll be a good show. Selling tickets in Ireland is going to be very interesting this year, because Bellator will do 2 shows more than likely. PFL, I think, will probably do a show, as we alluded to here. Cage Warriors will do a show. That's at least 40,000 tickets that they're going to have to sell in Ireland in 1 year. That's a lot of tickets. That's a lot of tickets to sell. I think PFL have to put on a very, very good card. I think, look, if you look at PFL now and the way they're kind of structuring their year, I suppose it'll probably be later in the year, because they'll have obviously the tournaments and stuff first. I would say, like they had last year. And if they do come to Ireland, like they say they came to the UK last year, probably be later in the year, right? So after the tournaments, that'll be my guess. I think if someone like a Verdum or a Pettis or a Rory McDonald or whatever is in this tournament and doesn't win, say, I would definitely bring him over and put him in Ireland card with Irish guys, load the card. I really, really would. I think that's the way to do it if you're PFL. Okay, last couple here. As well, if you're watching on YouTube, gonna nearly finish here. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section and I will answer them. If PFL and Bellator do a crossover, what fights would you like to see? Oh, there are a lot of great fights there I'd like to see. It's funny, Ali Ziev is fighting Steve Mowry in Bellator. He's coming over from PFL. That's a fun heavyweight fight. I'd like to see Capoloza versus Bader at heavyweight. I'd like to see Wilkinson run in there at either light heavyweight or middleweight and fight some of their guys over there. What about Musasi against Wilkinson? I think that'd be a fun fight. Lochnan against Pitbull will be fun, or AJ McKee. I'm a big fan of Ryoji Kudo as well. And I believe he's coming back next year for the PFL. That'll be fun, hopefully. But yeah, there are a good few fighters. Like PFL signing more guys all the time. So yeah, I think there's some very fun fights there. Those are the ones off the top of my head that I would like to see. I think they'd be fun. In addition to your bold predictions, who do you think is going to be the standout fighter of 2023? I'm going to say Ilia Topuria, who will be the number one contender, if not the interim champ, by the end of 2023, and maybe Usman storms back with the win over Leon or Shemaev. Who's going to be standout fighter 2023? That's an interesting one. The three names immediately come to mind. Topuria was one, Rakhmonov is number two, and Shemaev is number three. And with Shemaev and Rakhmonov, it might only be able to be one of them, right? I think the thing about Shemaev is, if you look at Shemaev, right, he won the breakthrough fighter like 3 years ago. And it felt like Shemaev was getting 2 fights and then into a title fight. Yet it hasn't really happened over the last year. And I know the missed weight and that mad card with Nate Diaz and all of that. I think this should be the year for Shemaev. It should be Shemaev. It feels like Shemaev's gone a little bit forgotten here, but it should be Shemaev. But I like the Topuria answer as well. I really do like the Topuria answer. What are you looking forward to most in the world of MMA for 2023? Just good fights. Good fights, honestly. And we need to concentrate on that more, I think. We need to concentrate on having good fights, seeing good fights, not getting caught up maybe in stuff, judging and all of that malarkey as we had before. Now I will, because I kind of have to. But yeah, just some good fights and all of that. So yeah, we will leave it there. That's the end of the questions. Thanks everyone for sending in your questions. I really, really appreciate it. You're all a bunch of legends. If you enjoyed this, I'm after faking that up there. How do I get rid of this? Can I put that up? Oh yeah, there we go. If you're watching on YouTube, up there, take a picture of that. Go over to Patreon, or just go to patreon.com/Severe MMA Podcast. Sign up, Patreon. You get this Q&A every week. It's usually me like in the middle of the night recording it, and it comes out on a Wednesday morning. But maybe I'll do this again a few times if people enjoyed it. We got a good few questions in, so I appreciate all of you. But yeah, sign up patreon.com/Severe MMA Podcast, and you will get this Q&A every single week. Thanks to everyone for their questions. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I'll see you all next time. Good luck.